Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat episode 144, featuring the second part of my interview with the Fat Man, aka George Sanger. Now, as you can see, I've donned my formal clothes because in this episode I will talk to George about the business side of the games audio industry and all of the stories and interesting encounters, problems, and solutions George has found in dealing with the corporate mindset. Got a lot to cover, so without further ado, here is Mr. George Sanger. I was wondering about if you could tell me a little bit about Project Horseshoe and Project Barbecue.
Those just to get us on the time scale. Those now both are run by my ex-wife, and I'm not involved any longer. However, for 15 years for Project Barbecue, we had this little exclusive camp out, get together thing where we'd have up to 50 people, usually 20 to 50 people, meet in Texas and try to influence music on computers over the next 5 years. So having run this thing for 15 years, we got to see our progress over and over again. And when it started out, it was, well, nobody's going to listen to us anyway. And as we got going, we realized, wait a minute, if ever anyone was going to listen to us, it's today, because look around you. Here's Intel, here's IBM, here's Microsoft. And as we went further, we realized that after about 7 years, when we were complaining about the way things were, we were complaining about what we set up ourselves. We had accomplished what we had wanted to do, and now we were the incumbent bad guys that we had to kick out of our own seats. And it was very exciting. And it felt like felt very adult. It felt very responsible. But that group unified 3D audio and kept it from being, 7 different standards. The Longhorn AC97 specs came from that, and high definition audio came out of Project Barbecue. And they say that there's no way that would have happened without Project Barbecue, because there's no other legal way that these people from these separate chip companies could talk to each other. If they were ever seen coming out of a McDonald's at the same time, their lawyers would be all over them. So by going to this Project Barbecue, they were able to confab. And then Project Horseshoe, it just had its 6th year, and it's for game design, solving game design's toughest problems. Here's the first T-shirt. The first penguin effect. All the other penguins have pushed him in to see if there are sharks in the water, and that seems to be going really well. And you can go to projecthorseshoe.com or projectbarbecue.com. That's Project BBQ.com, or is it Project BARBQ.com? One of those. You'll find it.
Yeah, barbecue is one of those very tricky words. There was actual barbecue at this thing, right? I mean,
type George Sanger barbecue or BBQ, and you'll find it. And yeah, there didn't used to be. It used to be gourmet food all the time, and it's gotten to be a little bit more rustic over the years. But it's really productive, and we innovated. In my mind, we innovated some brainstorming techniques that were really effective and brilliant. And then we looked around us, and people would say things like, "Have you heard of the TED Talks?" And we'd say, "No." And they'd say, "Well, you guys are better anyway." And have you heard about such Scrum? Is that these management techniques for brainstorming and stuff? And there are some really neat techniques out there, but the way that we did it was cool, and still is, I guess. We get our 50 people together, and we'd get them real drunk. We'd have a great big party the first night, and jamming at the music one, and game playing at the game one. The next morning, everyone's holding their head, and we blow reveille and get them out of bed. And we have three speakers talk to them, which gets them all like going, wait, oh, but the speakers are instructed uh, not to give answers, not to give lectures, not to say how things are, but rather to raise questions. So we get these guys with their heads just popping with questions. And then we put them in a position where they brainstorm and identify the biggest issues and questions that are facing the industry right then. And we have this sort of process where everyone voices their concerns. We clump them all into four little groups, and then we send people out into breakout groups for the rest of the weekend to pick on one of the issues or the other. And we actually got stuff solved that way. I don't know if I'm clear about how I'm describing this, but if you go to the websites, you'll be able to find it. And you can look at the reports. Go to the websites and click on reports at the top, and you'll see some really cool stuff came out of those.
So, what do you think are the biggest problems facing the industry
Oh,
as of now? And what are the solutions? we can we can nail the coffin shut right here, right now.
yeah. Well, um, I think that the first thing to realize is that everything is wonderful everywhere, and that for every time that you or I say, we look at an ad on TV and we see an ad for a game that we go, that ain't gaming. That's just exploitation, and that's people making money, and that's just it's an ugly thing. They're ruining gaming. And every time we say that, we got to remember, if that's not gaming, then it's not us. I mean, if I'm a stage actor, a legitimate stage actor, and I'm watching Gilligan's Island, I don't need to feel horrible that the art of theater is being dragged through the muck. It's not what I do. So whatever it is that you and I do is that which we do, and it doesn't get sullied by all these other things. So what I see when I look out there, the most important thing is that it's not a bunch of excited nerds. To the extent that it is a bunch of excited nerds doing what's exciting to them, which is entertaining each other, to that extent, A, it's art, and B, it's valuable, and C, I love it. And to the extent that people are putting love into it, it's beautiful and it's valid and it's elevating, and I'm proud to be part of it. And when it becomes trying to impress an investor, or when the marketing person says, you don't know who your audience is, we do. You pay us, we tell you what the audience likes, and you do it. I'm not interested in it. I mean, hopefully it's making somebody some money, but I think that it's foul. I think that it doesn't make money, because creativity, entertainment relies on an interplay of familiar elements and surprise elements. And you can't give people what they want and be innovative and surprising. Because if you know that they want it, then you have to have tried it on them once, and that means that they've experienced it, and that means it's not new.
Have you had a lot of problems with these? I'm picturing these guys in suits, coming to you and saying, this piece is, it's beautiful, it's artistic, but it's too creative for our purposes. We need something, whatever they think. I mean, you have to deal with that kind of tension yourself.
It usually doesn't express itself that way. Um, when it's tricky, one of the forms that it takes is that they'll say, well, just give us something like really exciting and movie-like. And they kind of want higher, louder, faster. And basically the way that it comes across usually is simple aesthetics, right? That they're requesting from me the very most obvious brutal means of communication, like telling a guitar player higher, louder, faster. And when you do that, it would be like Jaws is one thing. Jaws with a shark in every frame of the picture is another thing. We do a lot of the latter. You know.
That's a great way to put that.
Well, that's the
I was thinking, you've got too many strings on your guitar or something. Or
Oh, yeah. Once I got, well, George, piano just isn't an instrument that you would hear on an aircraft carrier. Okay, so you want all bosun's whistle and accordion? I mean, what? Oh, one person did experience. This is great. This isn't quite what you're after, but it is like the too many notes joke. Somebody said, could you have fewer notes but more of them? That didn't happen to me.
sure.
It happened to me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your musical training. How did you get the skills that you needed to be a professional game musician? You were telling me earlier about this really cool band director that you had that was actually in a surf band called the Astronauts. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on him.
This is Bob's Fender Bass 6, and he used to tell the story that that Fender started making the Bass 6 because the Astronauts had a big guy playing guitar, and RCA said, no, the big guy is to play bass. So the legend is that that they went to Fender, and Fender said, okay, well, we'll make a bass that a guitar player can play easily. This is an old Japanese magazine. Now, I'd like to say this is on the front cover, but of course, Japanese, it's on the back cover. But there they are. It's a fan magazine. So you can see they've got they all have these matching blonde Fenders, just like that one.
So he was a marching band, or was this the orchestra?
Well, it was marching band. See, and this is like when the Beach Boys would play in Japan. The Beach Boys would open for the Astronauts. So they were a surf band. This guy came into Coronado, which is the hometown, is where I am now, and he came into town and set up a marching band, and we became this great prize-winning band. Very inspiring, We were number one. We had attitude and professionalism and esprit de corps, and we learned all these words, and we learned, how to sling a little bit of bull out now and then. And then he would sort of hold court in his office and play guitar, and play us, and just play his favorite music. And we would all just kind of gather around and listen to Elvis, Beach Boys, Astronauts, a bunch of country music. And then he'd get out his guitar and play along. And in the process, he taught me how to play. So I would take his bass and go out and pluck the bass a little bit. And then he'd show me the necessary tunes. He even made me a cassette one day of like the essential tunes to learn for a rock and roll band. Because as a sophomore in high school, I was starting my little rock and roll band, et cetera, rock revival band. And, he made me a recording, and by God, we played just about every tune on that thing. And he just kind of mentored us real well, and taught us not to not to give up on things. It taught us to have pride and attitude, and how to kind of go for it. It's also really helpful to know somebody who's had some success, and to see what the success attitude is, and to decide whether or not you want to adopt that.
So George, if a kid came to you and you were making a tape for him of the must hear game compositions, what would you put on the tape?
That's nice. Well, just because I know the material, uh, I'd give them a lot of our stuff. I mean, just because of my relative ignorance to things that are outside of my skin, you know. So from Team Fat, I'd definitely give them uh, Wing Commander and Seventh Guest. Loom would be fun. Pajama Sam. No, 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 not Pajama Sam. Putt Putt Saves the Zoo. I think that was our best stuff. Um, we wrote it as a team. We pushed the producers to their limit, as far as like what kind of weirdnesses we were putting in, and they accepted it gracefully. Um, and then getting beyond ourselves, everybody agrees that the music in the Final Fantasy games is just great. So I'm gonna just go along with that one. It's a given. And Guitar Hero, it's game music. I'm sorry, and it's beautifully interactive. And you've got to understand what it is that works with that. I also love the soundtrack to SSX Tricky. It's just like one tune over and over again, and all these kind of dumb remixes. But the interactivity with the Uber tricks and the way that you're playing is great. Monkey Island is it's got to be understood at least intellectually, if not at the heart level. Those guys put in the LucasArts music team put 10 years and $1 million into making smooth transitions between the rooms of the game. And it was a noble task, and I don't know that anyone's ever going to be able to quite do it like that again. And the Mario music. Everything Koji Kondo touches is gold. But I like the weird stuff. Katamari Damacy is, and Gitaru Man. The Japanese weirdness where it's evident that the producers were supportive of weirdness. I really like that. I like it when people step off the conveyor belt and do something that isn't just impersonating a movie. What I don't like is when something just sounds movie-like or orchestral, because nobody ever went to a movie because it was movie-like. There's so much more to aesthetics than the most intense experience of your life or just like a movie. If you sat in front of the world's worst movie and I hit you on the head with a hammer, that would be both. But it's really not that pleasant.
I'm really glad that you're still, hammering on this theme. I don't know if you remember this, but back in, I think it was 2006, I'd actually talked to you a little bit before. It was over email about game audio. And the question came up in our discussions about, why are these guys? I mean, they can make any kind of sound, the human ear can hear, and they're just trying to slavishly copy whatever's going on in the movies. And even the movie music to me is not really all that, original anyway. So what can you do with computer game audio that you can't do, with an real orchestra? And why aren't more people doing?
I let me get my head around the question a little bit better. There are things you can do with computer game audio that you can't do with an orchestra. Technically, and there are barriers. There are a lot of barriers between the situations we generally have and actually putting those out. For instance, some composers don't want to do it. For instance, one composer has an idea of how things should interact and it doesn't fit the tool he has, or more often, he doesn't have a tool. Or the programmer has an idea for something intricately interactive, but he really has no regard for the musical intention or really the value of what the musician brings to the table. He's going to say, oh, well, it's going to go faster when it's more intense and slower when it's, I mean, come on. And that's not necessarily how things work. Sometimes it gets slower when it's more intense. We don't always shout when we're more excited. Sometimes we speak very quietly. and the more complex approaches. But why isn't it done more often? I really can't say for sure that it's not. I think that every once in a while we run into something that just really is golden and really speaks to us. And I think that there will always be a lot of people kind of going down the slippery slope to the drain of I'm doing what the client expects, and the client thinks he's doing what the audience expects, and the audience just buys it wholesale because that's what's expected. There's just always going to be a lot of that. And I think what we have to be happy about is that that's a big ordinary that allows artistic people to be out of. We can be out of the ordinary as long as there's a nice big ordinary out there. I think that's going to, that has a potential to pay off for anybody who feels like they want to break the mold. There are exciting things happening at a low level always. Do you get involved much with the, with the homebrew groups and the little guys who are doing Facebook games and stuff like that?
I try to keep ahead of them. I've had a couple of them on the show.
I
And
like.
that's a lot of innovation going on there, especially with the Kickstarter projects and everything, so they can get away from the big companies.
Do a Skype with my son. He's doing a Kickstarter called Clockwork and Crossbones, and I'm telling you what to do here. Yeah, you're going to say, "Hey George, do a reggae thing."
Louder!
Yeah.
No.
But it's almost embarrassingly unprofessional looking to look at his video on Kickstarter. But I showed it to Raph Koster, and he just retweeted it and said the video made him laugh, and he's like all excited about it because what it shows is, no, we are not towing the corporate line. Yes, we are a bunch of jerks. We like to do stupid skits. We don't care that much if you like our stupid skits or not. We're making a game. We care if you like the game, and that shows up on their Facebook page. But on their Kickstarter, it's, we need your help because look at us. Woo! And it's neat. It feels so good to be away from that grind. And
corporate mentality.
Yeah. And Glenn, of the things that we communicate well on, respect for creativity over the corporate mentality is something that he really picked up on. And even though he can work in corporate environments, it's not where he's going to want to end up. So I think he's going to be, I don't know how employable you are, but I know a lot of people who claim that they're just not employable. I don't know if I'm employable anymore. I can't sit in a meeting and listen to people talk about, what are the buzzwords? Well, we have a responsibility to the shareholders, and that's why we're firing this guy on Christmas, even though his wife's pregnant.
Just business.
It's business. Well, what's our responsibility? No, we're being noble. We're being responsible to the shareholders. I just can't bear it. I can't bear it.
And that's all for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I should be back next week with the third part of my interview with the Fat Man, and I was able to follow up with him with the questions that you guys submitted. So stay tuned. A lot of great stuff coming up in the next few weeks from the Fat Man. As always, I want to thank you if you have donated to the show. Remember, all I ask is $1. So if you like what you see here and would like to see more episodes, then please go to armchairarcade.com or follow the links in the show to learn how to donate. It really means a lot to me, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Now let's see about this ale of the week. Now this is a very special ale to me. at least a special brewery. This is the from the Abita brewery. It's in Louisiana. I don't know if you know this, but I am originally from Louisiana. That's part of the deep south, the deep southern part of the United States. And I've actually been to this brewery a few times. I like to go there on my way to visit my family. So I was kind of excited to see this. This is their Abbey Ale. Now I've never tried this, but I really love Abbey Ale, so I'm really looking forward to this. I'm trying to find some information. Of course, they brew all their beers with their local spring, the Abita Springs. I don't see any information here about alcohol content. So, oh, there it is, 8%. So that's pretty strong. This might have a little bit of a bite to it. By comparison, I think Budweiser has something like 4.2%. So almost twice as potent as the typical Macro brew. So let's get this open and see what the Abita's Abbey Ale tastes like. You got her open. It was just a regular cap on it, no cork. But I've heard that the corks are actually quite expensive, and I would rather pay for better ale than for a cork, if you follow my logic there. Oh, I smell that. You can really smell that sort of chocolatey, syrupy, cherry, sort of sweet. What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe kind of a molasses-like smell to this. Very pungent. Not in a bad way. But you can definitely tell you've got something here. It actually smells pretty good. So let's give it a taste. Whoa. You can definitely tell that there's some alcohol in this one. It sort of gets that warming effect right away. I mean, this must be some pretty potent stuff. Taste is a very sort of thick taste. Very syrupy, chocolatey, some cherry type of thing, that molasses flavor again from the smell. This is a pretty strong, and I'm not going to pretend I especially like this brew. Abita brewery. It's very heavy, almost kind of like a cough syrup type of flavor here. Not the worst ale I've ever had, but I think I'm going to be back for a second bottle of this. Maybe if they mark it down, I will. But anyway, not the best, but not the worst. So choose this one at your own peril. So anyway, let's see if I can get through this Abbey Ale and on to the quotation. The quotation from this week comes from Frank Zappa. And it's a really good quotation, and it goes something like this. It's not necessary to imagine the world ending in fire or ice. There are two other possibilities. One is paperwork, the other is nostalgia. See you guys next week.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives, who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.